first question of you, Deb, as the drop-in CEO, how has your approach to partnering with C-suite leaders evolved over the past 6 years? And what new challenges have you encountered in helping them navigate with confidence?
Yeah, that's a real interesting question when it comes to who do I serve? How do I help? The one thing that has changed for me, and you'll hear this even in my podcast, is that I really care and want to partner with the C suite leader of today and the C suite leader of tomorrow. I care about that younger demographic, the up and coming managers and directors who may have a seat at the table. And I found out, unfortunately, through business development, that they don't buy. They don't invest in themselves, though they're the demographic that absolutely needs the help. What I have done as far as my brand and my messaging is lean back intensely to marketing to the CEO, the C suite, the COO, president, what have you, not only to solve their business problem, but I also have been impressing upon them. This is what's changed is let's fix a business issue, but you will be a distant memory after you fix the business issue. We need to focus on leaving your legacy and lifting the leaders of tomorrow. So often when I drop into a business, it is to solve their issue and get them out of a situation. But also, by the way, you've got a team in your care. You need to leave a legacy. So that's just one small shift that I've made. And not sure where to go with it, but again, definitely evolve. It's a small pivot, but I find I'm able to be in service a lot more effectively.
You touch on an interesting point because, and it's plagued businesses forever. In fact, so long that I can even remember it, is that people never did really good succession planning. Your thoughts?
Yeah, agree. Because one of the things that I find in small and medium sized businesses is they've been wildly successful with the owner at the helm and a curated team around them as a can do attitude. So they never needed to do it. And then, oops, things happen and somebody gets ill, somebody leaves the business, and they say, oh, not my, all that intellectual property goes by the wayside. This is part of a bigger trend that I am seeing. It's not just the succession planning, but they have a lack of vision. They don't develop a long term strategy. They're not thinking 3 to 5 years down the road. Who are we going? How are we leading our people? Because they're going to grow. Things are going to change. The customers are going to change. And by the way, only one small sliver of that is succession planning. So you got to do the succession planning. You need to be aware of what are all the risks, what are all the things that could go bump in the night, and plan for that. I am right now developing that for a president of a company. He's new in his role and he's realizing that things are changing so fast. He can't keep his finger on it anymore. He needs to have a strategy and tactical items for every leader to be accountable and drive the ship together. That's what I see missing. And that's how I'm starting to serve.
Great color commentary. I love that indeed. Now, your book, The CEO's Compass, was published a few years ago. How have the principles you outlined in that book stood the test of time? And have you developed any new insights that you'd add to a potentially revised edition if you had to?
I love that. And I always reflect upon the book. Did it provide the right value? Is it still usable? But I still have people saying, Deb, I read your book and I felt like you were talking to me. So I know it still resonates with those leaders. But the one thing that sticks out is the book, while it talks about performance and purpose and people, process, and tools, there's a foundational element in there of investing in humans. Investing in humans is one of those things that I have said, and people agree. When you unleash their potential, remove the barriers, and develop them in succession planning, they got your back. They had highly talented, but unless you spend time developing those people, you're always going to be whack-a-mole trying to get the results. And so that is talent development, succession planning absolutely comes through and through. One of the biggest challenges, though, I do see in terms of new insights is that they hold back from hiring external help or fractional leaders. And one of the things I've been trying to speak to them is you have your core competencies. You got your engineers, your manufacturers, you got your product development people, that tight knit group, and then you hold the reins and don't bring any other talent. The new insight is the fact that they need to think about a flexible workforce, focus and have your full time equivalents on your core competencies, but have prospective talent, fractional CSO, a fractional CFO, fractional me, a fractional Deb Coviello, the drop in CEO. You need to have those people in your network. rather than they panic, they need somebody. And that's the worst time to try to find and flex the workforce for high value, short amount of time, being able to move the needle. So, my insight and my message to all you CEOs out there is start getting a pool of fractional experts so they're there when you need them.
Interesting. Make a really great point. And it's been drilled down to me that even a coach needs a coach. And I'm finding that the most successful people in business or in life even have they've got a nutritional coach, they've got a health coach, they've got someone they go to for therapy of some sort. It's a common thing, isn't it, today to rely on some outside information. Sometimes you get so, what shall we say, bottled up in your own little world, you forget there's something living around you, right?
Yeah, again, celebrated for working highly effectively in your bubble, but that bubble's going to bite you. You need that external perspective. You need a Peter, you need a Deb to drop in and be able to say, yeah, you guys are great. You are amazing. But did you realize this? They can't see it. They need that external perspective.
They really do. Fantastic. Now, you wear many hats. You've got speaker, author, podcaster, coach, consultant, professional moderator. Which of these roles has seen the most significant growth or change over the last 6 years and why?
It's funny you ask that question. I start thinking about maybe I'm Sybil with multiple personalities here, but the beauty of being an entrepreneur unleashed with no limitations is I can be anybody I want and everybody at the same time. The problem is this little Energizer bunny can wear out and really can't see everything. So the place that I've really grown the most, but it's multiple places, is in the area of sales and marketing. I realized about 6 to 9 months ago, I got a good brand. My brand is decent, but I needed some course corrections. And it started with two separate coaches, not even the marketing and sales, but one was a mindset coach. Deb, you can't be a high achiever. You got to be a little bit more balanced and have high performance in your life. And there's a distinct difference. I'm happy to talk about that. But then the other one was, even as myself thought of infinite possibilities, I was still holding myself back. And so I got another mindset coach that helped me find those infinite possibilities. And oh boy, I am full speed ahead. Nothing stopping me. So it's an amazing thing. I'm reinvigorated. But the other thing was my brand. And again, that's why you and I are here today. What is my brand? What am I holding back? What haven't I told the world? I got a brand coach and we evolved my brand voice, for which, as you see, I am showing up much differently. I am telling those horror stories about how I was kicked out of the nest, but that's me. And I bring those lessons learned forward to help the next generation leader. And finally, sales. And you're a sales professional, but I never liked sales. I'm the engineer and ops person. The work was always there. But I met somebody fantastic that says, yeah, it might be sales, but it is the art of building rapport, relationships, and providing value. And as soon as they said that, I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. And then given the tools and processes to nurture relationships and understand the different kinds of humans we're dealing with. And you know what? It is starting to change the direction of my company, getting more inbounds than the outbounds. So, yeah, lots of change.
That's fantastic. There's a lot of rules around the game, like when do you ask? And that I
I know.
find you don't really need to ask if you've done all the right things up front. If you've nurtured the relationship and you've been authentic, like you've just presented, that it actually just comes together.
I know. And there's this engineering leader. Oh my, I've been nurturing him. He was just on my podcast. And I just stay close to him. Just give him a little attaboy, or hey, here's some interesting information. The next thing I know, and I'm so grateful, he's saying, I might need to hire you as my consultant to help me guide in my new role. So when they start saying things like that, it's affirmation. Yes, I am doing the right things and just being myself. Just being as myself and not being afraid of, I've got to be somebody else when I show up because I got to get that sale. I got to get that next thing on the calendar. Gurus are great, but I got to be myself. So
That's a brilliant message. I love it. Now, as we move into 2025, what do you see as the most critical skills or attributes for CEOs to cultivate in today's rapidly changing business landscape?
One of the things when I think about that is that companies say, oh, we've got great change management. Whenever there's a new initiative, we cascade it down. We have town halls. And they say they've got great two-way communication. Well, I say, nay to that. It is so passe, the terminology of two-way communication. We have to invest in two-way understanding. And I'll give you a quick story. Oh my husband said, Deb, Sarah, we're renovating the second floor. We're doing it on this date. The contractors are showing up. We say, great, we're excited for that. And then, oh my day, they show up, and my daughter and I had no idea how disrupted our worlds would be. The hammering, the nailing, the saws, etc., totally disrupted our world. And it caused a little friction between my husband and I. And then he says, but Deb, I told you what was going to happen. But the fact is that the practitioner, the person on the front line, did not understand the impact to our lives. So I plead with leaders, change the narrative. Have you done your due diligence and invested in two-way understanding? One, did you communicate in a way that people can translate what it means to their role? And have you allowed engagement for them to even ask questions and clarification? Until that, you have not been intentional with your communications because you fail to connect with the human. And that's where initiatives and things break down. So change it, change the way you act and perform.
Wow. I've actually worked in change management. In fact, I was hired to rebrand an organization once that had accumulated a couple of businesses and nobody was working in step with one another. And it was like crazy. And I actually built what shall we say, a theme around my efforts with them. And my theme was change cannot be managed, it has to be inspired. And your story just reminded me of that so well.
Yeah, and I love what you said about inspiration because sharing insights or telling people what to do is one thing, and that's what influencers do. But true change comes from the stories and messages that C-suite leaders share with their people, showing kindness and caring. And when you see people's eyes light up and get it, and the head bob, and then people do amazing things that your mouth drops. I wouldn't have imagined that because you inspired something from within. And that's how brands, that's how leaders leave their legacy.
And on just a tiny side note, but still in change, I find the best change management people are always utilizing the skill sets of the people that it's going to affect. Because if they allow them their input and say and mediate their ideas, they will be part of the solution, part of the change, and hence will support it.
And just to add on to that, I sometimes shy away from using the word change. Sometimes I try to be more politically correct because then people feel resistant. Might we change the narrative, depending on the circumstances, to the word evolve? Because what it does is it celebrates what already works well and what might we want to bring forward and change such that we bring everybody along versus people feeling sadness because the world is no longer going to be the same.
Brilliant, really nice. Now, reflecting on your journey, if you could give yourself some advice when you first started this role, what would it be? It's like talking to Deb 6 years ago. What would you tell Deb now?
Oh, actually, you just inspired two answers for me. One of them I was going to say was I should have listened to my husband 6 years ago. I mean, he's a wise man, but I don't listen to him. And he says, okay. But he was the one that said, you could be a CEO, Deb, you could be a plant manager. And all I thought of myself was a consultant providing a service. And the thing about that is sometimes we can't see our own potential. And that's why, again, we talk about needing a coach, an external perspective to be able to see your hidden gems that you can't see yourself. Now, giving credit to you, Peter. Again, way back in the beginning, the first time you saw me, as I was evolving, you told me to get over myself because you saw me showing up as not as my authentic self and not being totally in brand. And I didn't even know what my brand was back then. And so I did listen to you. I knew that I had to be in search of who I was. And really, it was becoming who I once was as a creative. who just wanted to say whatever the heck comes out of this mouth and go here, go there, and create, create, create. Again, that's what great leaders do. Listen to my husband, listen to Peter Goral. He's got some good sense. So, yeah, I need to listen better to others in my ecosystem.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Coviello, for his sponsorship.
Yeah, he's got to live with me.
Though, it's funny. You're lucky that he's comfortable in telling you that. Now, my wife is the same. She's much like your husband did to you. Peter, what are you doing? Why is it you can help everybody else except yourself? She always reminds me of this. And it's humbling, but it does move you back, don't you find?
Yeah, and with white hairs and maturity, I am starting to listen and consider because the generational, independent, stubborn, and pig headed, as my mother might say, I'd say, no, I can do it myself, my way. And now, even if what one says doesn't sit well with me, I don't react. I have that emotional intelligence card going here. And what I do is I consider what they say, or maybe not exactly what they say, but what was the intention? What was the kindness behind it? And through that, there's always something I can action on and consider. And then 24 hours later, Dan, you were right. I think I will do this or not do this.
One of the things that has evolved on the business landscape, and it's courtesy of people like my friend David Allison, who has almost single-handedly walked around the world and told the world, look, demographics no longer exist as ways to measure people. People are measured in values, that you can be 16 years old or 60 years old and have the same values, which means that diversity between you probably works. So it's unfair sometimes for us to say, as we're judging who we'd like to work with and who we're targeting, to say, well, I want somebody who's this age or that age or has been through so much and so forth. No, take a look at what they value. How did they grow up? What cultural things are they engaged with? What is so meaningful to them? Have you bumped into that in your efforts?
Yeah, I have become somewhat attribute agnostic when I look at talent and go into an organization that I don't see color, I don't see age. Yes, it is a physical attribute, but I've also talked about diversity of thought. And thought can come from even inspiration from a child. They see wonderment and innovation all in the world, and you can get inspired by just seeing the actions or joy of a child. So I am seeing people leaning into how do they feel like they fit in an organization? Can they, even though they might be a young buck, can they evolve and be groomed? Because we look at those deeper qualities, their values, and does their energy just fit in? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, another looking ahead question for you. What new projects, initiatives, or focus areas are you most excited about in the future? And how do they align with your vision to supporting the C-suite leaders?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts here, but I'm going to go completely out of order. I am so excited about being something, being someone in the media space. Where the heck did that come from? Deb is an engineer who's a drop in CEO, but there is obviously, me, the person that wants to be in service to be hired. But there is this person in myself that is yelling from the highest mountain, I see you. I see you looking out a window, wondering, what am I going to do next with this current situation? And the only way I can do that is to get my voice out there through the gracious offer of being on your platform and all the other platforms and all the other stages. So I have created Media 3L. What does the 3L mean? Lift, light, and lead. And those were on the back of a napkin during my first 6 months in my business under the leadership of another consultant. I pulled that thing out, and the brand coach said, that is beautiful. That is who you are and what you do. So, what does that look like? I don't know, but I just know, and I keep pointing to my window over here. That's where I'm going. Now, how do we put some structure around that? I got a new website. on that hire me, here are my services. I'm getting a new website that has all of my podcasts, all of my guest opportunities, my speaking, and all that stuff to get my thought leadership out there in service and educating. There is a better way to operate. Now, stay tuned. We'll figure out the rest along the way. I'm gathering smart people and pebbles and rocks that are going to be there to support me, and I will know the right decisions when they come. But in that line, I got a new audiobook, The CEO's Compass, Your Guide to Get Back on Track. It's being released within the next month, and you get to hear Deb's voice reading her own book, a new book. The new CEO playbook. Stop chasing results and start pursuing peace of mind. It is on my flip chart over here to be written, should be written by the end of March. Super excited for CEOs. Get your early copy, get on the list. Podcasting. I've been in my Zoom bubble. I got all the equipment now to go out on the road and do face-to-face podcasting. I think the dynamics and the quality of the conversations are going to be absolutely amazing. Again, I see myself in radio studios, TV studios, and on stages. And finally, I do need a little bit of help. I'm bootstrapping a lot, but I need some smart people, marketing strategists, social media managers, etc. All in all, I am racing towards a stage. Last year's theme was Go Big. This year's theme is Connecting with Humanity.
Wow.
Oh my God. It's a lot.
I almost wanted to stand up and give you a standing ovation, right? That is such growth. I take a look at 6 years ago, and we're both struggling 6 years ago to get a conversation together. But look at us today. You really have evolved, because I find it easier to speak to you because of how damn good you are.
I appreciate that you can see that, because I can't see that in the day to day. I get emails, Deb, that was great. I really appreciate your content. But unfortunately, for a person like me, I'm go, go, go. Let's go on to the next thing. I don't see it and feel it. But I appreciate that from you, Peter, because you've been watching me and you can see the changes that are enabling me to have the impact that I want.